everybody, Stefan here from YouTube, Paint Boss, Platinum Features Painting. Today I want to do we're about to do this beautiful garage floor. We got our epoxy system right here, and I want to kind of show you how we set up for all this. So right now we're going to mix up 2 kits. That's 1 part A, 1 part B. And we always put a little runner down here because it's messy. So we're using Sherwin-Williams Armor Seal 1000. This is factory haze gray. What I want to show you, come here real quick. I want to show you a very important part of getting the epoxy is you want to mix the epoxy and then the hardener together. And then you have to use a paddle whip and you got to mix it up and let it sweat. And what I mean by sweat is you have to mix it up for 5-6 minutes and then just let it sit there. Let all the bubbles rise to the top so you don't have a lot of bubbling issues. We like to let it sweat for about 20 to 30 minutes before we go, but we're just about to start here. So we're gonna mix in 2 kits into a clean 5-gallon bucket, and we really do want to scrape it clean and get as much. This stuff is really expensive, and you want the hardener and the epoxy resin itself to mix really well, so you want to make sure you're getting all of it out of each of the buckets, right? So once we clear it out here, while I'm dumping this in, you can see I'm just kind of scraping it all loose with a 5-gallon stir stick, and we want to make sure we get it all in here. As I'm doing that, Benito will walk you around and show you kind of what we need. We have our 18-inch roller, our brushes, our flake is at the ready, because once we start, we want to go as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can. So I'm going to mix this, and we'll get all this in there. Benito, why don't you show them what we have in terms of blowers and all of our stuff. This is kind of how we do all our garages. All we mixing this stuff. Benito, you want to finish scraping that? You can finish emptying that can. So this is kind of our basic setup here. We have our roller pan, 2 cut-in brushes because we're going to cut in to the stem wall here. And we're gonna basically cut to here, put our flake up on the stem wall. We got our roller. We have 2 blowers. We blow every day before we start. That's our big boy. And then we have a cordless, because obviously once we start, we don't want to be dragging extension cords everywhere. So we've ground down the floor, we've ground to the stem wall. And here's our flake. Today we're gonna be using Wombat from Torganol. And that's always a really one of the favorites we do is the Wombat. I'll have a couple more coming up that actually have some wood flakes. So here's our little setup. Now we're paddle whipping it. You can see all of the hardener mixing in with the epoxy resin. And probably the most important part of doing your floor is paddle mixing your hardener to your epoxy. And then remember, the important component to that is letting the bucket sweat. All that means is you're letting those components that have just been blended together kind of join forces, and then you're gonna let all those air bubbles in. Notice how he's mixing it. We're deliberately trying not to get air bubbles in our epoxy coating. So he's right under the surface. And we're trying to get as little bubbles as we can. And once we start going, remember, once we finish mixing that for a couple of minutes, we're gonna let it sweat for about 20 or 30 minutes. We have all of our gear out here we need. Our cleats are ready. Our radios are ready so we don't lose our minds. And most importantly, our respirators are ready. So thank you, everybody. I'll do a little video when we get this finished, and we'll see you guys shortly. Make sure you subscribe to Paint Boss. We do appreciate it.